Good evening, and welcome to the College of Visual and Performing Arts Speakers Series, The Artist Activist, Centering Black Voices. I am Professor Patricia Miller, Director of Vocal Studies here at George Mason University, and we are honored to have as our special guest, world-renowned operatic and concert tenor, Lawrence Brownlee. Since winning first place in the Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions in 2001, and his meteoric rise to international acclaim and celebrity, Lawrence Brownlee has captivated audiences and critics around the world. The New York Times hails him as an international star in bel canto repertory. The Guardian writes he is one of the world's leading bel canto stars, and NPR proclaims Mr. Brownlee as one of the most in-demand opera singers in the world today, with an instrument of great beauty and expression perfectly suited for the operas of Rossini and Donizetti. Lawrence Brownlee has been in high demand with regular guest appearances at the Metropolitan Opera, the Teatro alla Scala, the Royal Opera House Covent Garden, the Bayerische Staatsoper, Deutsche Oper Berlin, Opera Nationale de Paris, and the Wiener Staatsoper, among many, many others. His concert performances include collaborations with the world's leading orchestras and conductors, including the Chicago Symphony, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the San Francisco Symphony, the Cleveland Orchestra, the Amsterdam Concertgebouw, and the festivals of Baden-Baden and Salzburg, among others. Equal to his commitment to the highest levels of vocal artistry, Lawrence Brownlee has become an important voice in conversations about racial and social injustice. A passionate advocate for diversity initiatives, Mr. Brownlee works with companies and engages civic organizations to create programs seeking to expand opera audiences. His critically acclaimed solo recital program, Cycle of My Being, centers on the Black male experience in America today and has toured the country 3 times since 2018, including performances at Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, and virtual broadcasts throughout 2020. Giving insight and advice on diversity issues, he serves as artistic advisor for Opera Philadelphia. Additionally, he is ambassador for the Lyric Opera of Chicago's Lyric Unlimited and an ambassador for a new initiative called Opera for Peace. In May 2020, Larry launched the Sit Down with LB, a Facebook Live series which explores the experience of being an African-American opera singer. The ongoing series has featured conversations with renowned artists like George Shirley, Denise Graves, Martina Arroyo, Janai Bridges, Vincent Cole, Harold Blackwell, among many, many others. He is also an active member of Kappa Alpha Psi, a historically Black fraternity committed to social action and empowerment. In addition to his passionate activism, Larry has been able to balance opera, recitals, and concerts, creating a place for himself among the very top artists in classical music today. Highlights from Larry's extraordinary career would take several evenings to share. It is far more meaningful to show you. Here is Lawrence Brownlee singing an excerpt from Rossini's opera, Otello.
Distruggerlo saprò,
What an extraordinary performance. Thank you. And welcome, Larry, Lawrence Brownlee. Welcome to our series. That was fantastic. Please share your feelings about that moment where you're, oh my God, it's fabulous.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Patty. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here tonight. That moment in the opera is an exciting one. I haven't done the full role, but I have done the trio and the duet many times, and it is pure electricity. It's fun, testosterone, all types of excitement, and so there's a lot of high seas that are warring against one another, and so I really love that singing that duet, and I've done it several times, both parts, because it's two tenors. It's a tenor
Hmm.
duet, and
Hmm.
so it's one of my favorite pieces that I like to perform in concerts now.
That is extraordinary singing, just extraordinary. Well, to begin, would you speak about your childhood and the early stages of your career? Where did you start and what inspired you to choose classical music and classical vocal music as your career path? Where did all of this vocal glory and artistry begin?
Well, I am from the great state of Ohio. I'm one of six kids. My father was the church choir director, and my mother was the featured soloist of the choir. And so we sang all the time around our house. And I have a very, very musical family. My parents still sing today. They're not so old, but they still, they're in their 70s, but they still are singing, still active in church. And so that's where my love affair with music started. But I was, primarily an instrumentalist. And I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have a few guitars over there. And of course, the piano's right here. And so I played
Yeah,
the electric guitar, I played the drums, I played the piano. I come from a church called the Church of God in Christ,
know
which
all about it.
it's what. Okay, hello. And so
Yeah,
they there was a saying that you get in where you fit in. So if you go one week and there's no organ player, you just sit down and you'll pick it out. You'll get it one of these days you'll finally get it. And so we had a very active music department. And so I actually was very shy about singing in the beginning, to be quite honest. I didn't like to sing at all because it made me nervous. I would have butterflies in my stomach and I just did not want to do it. But I remember early on that my parents would, for the lack of a better word, force me to sing. My dad would say, "Oh, you're gonna sing. You're gonna sing. You're not gonna play around. You're gonna sing." So, or else face the consequences.
question
No,
consequence.
my dad encouraged me to sing. Encouraged is a very kind word to say, but I did sing, and then I remember what I would sing that people would start to notice my voice, and they would set me apart, and so I would start to get solos in the we call it the Sunshine Band, but in the choir, and then my family had a group we would sing several Sundays in the year, and I
Hmm.
remember that I had to sing a solo, and I didn't like to do it, but every time I would do it, people would respond positively, and so I was really really shy about singing. But to be honest, I came out of my shell for singing when I was in high school because I would sing in groups with my friends, and we would sing for the girls. Okay, that was it. I
Oh, I
became
love
less
it.
shy. I became less shy because they were like, "Hey, if you sing, the girls will think you're cute." So I was like, "Really? Okay."
Yeah, that's
All this.
true. That's true, Larry. It's very
I
true.
got very bold. Okay, I got very bold, and so, but then that was around the time that I got involved in show choir, and so I was fortunate to be a part of a city music school program that had a very active program amongst the whole district of schools. We used to do festivals in both semesters, and the show choir that I was involved in at the age of 15, I got a chance to travel to Berlin as a part of that show choir as the Berlin Wall was coming down. I was 16
Wow.
years old. And so at 16 years old, getting a chance to go outside of the United States. So my entryway into music was then just being involved in church and school. And then my final year of high school, there was a program at the university for gifted music students, and I was invited to take part in it. And so at that point, I had been singing with the show choir. And so I began to take voice lessons as a senior in high school. And at the end of this program, we had to give a recital. And so I remember singing one of the songs from the 24 Italian songs and arias, which I have that
Yeah.
book right over there, tu lo sai. And I was really
Yes.
mocking what I thought an opera singer sounded like. And I remember my teacher, who was a graduate student, taught me a few lessons, and then I did this recital with everyone else, whatever their discipline was. And I remember
Uh-huh.
singing after I finished. I got a standing ovation, and then I thought,
Right.
wow, this is very
Mhm.
interesting. No one else did, but I did. And so I was like, okay, maybe they just feel pity for me or something. I don't know what's going
No,
on.
no, no,
Uh,
no.
I was being encouraged. And then a gentleman who afterwards he approached my father and I. It was my father and I who went to that recital. And he said, where are you from? What are you going to do? Are you going to pursue this as a career because you need to? And I thought, at that point, I thought I was going to go to school to be a lawyer. That's what I thought my plans were lining up
Uh-huh.
to be. And so I
Uh-huh.
decided to go undecided and to see what there was for music for me, and go undecided to take law, English and other things. And early on, I did a competition and I won that one. And then I said, okay, I don't need to be doing any law. I need to try to follow this and see what is there for me in classical music.
Those were such amazing signs. You were being guided into this, just really
Yes.
directed. And what a wonderful, wonderful background that your family has, was musicians and artists themselves. So you got it legitimately, honestly. This is great. I'd like to
Sometimes
ask
they
you
say
one
your
more.
career chooses you, you know?
Absolutely. It sounds like yours has, honestly. But I'd like to go to another question that's a little different, this one. Being a Black tenor in a profession which has not always been kind to Black artists, can you share how you navigated through experiences which were racially motivated, and what advice you might give young singers today on how to navigate similar experiences?
I have to say that I was fortunate to have had people around me that encouraged me. They gave me words of encouragement and guidance. Um,
Mhm.
before, before me, there were several other singers who had very good careers. George Shirley, namely, was one of them that really broke down barriers that myself and other tenors could enjoy some measure of success. He and Vincent Cole, but even before him, Roland Hayes was a concert singer and a few
Yes.
others.
Yeah.
But for the most part, as a Black tenor singing leading roles, uh, it wasn't that common. It was pretty rare. And so I had people who told me that I shouldn't get my hopes up too high. Uh, I've had
Mm.
people more or less say to my face that I wouldn't have a career because of my height and my race. I'm not very tall, but because of my race. But thankfully, right along with those people who said those things, there were other people who told me that you have the gift. You have a gift that other people would kill for. You have the thing that
Yes.
will put you on the world stages. You have to
Yeah.
believe in the fact that you were put here for a reason and to do great things. And so, work on the things that you can control. My father always said, worry about the things that you can control. The other things, don't worry about them. So I took that as an opportunity to really try to perfect what it is I felt that was special. I had a teacher early on that said to me, you know that you have to be 3 times as good just to be equal to someone who doesn't look like you. And then you have to have something special. So always
Mhm.
aim for being special. And so I said, okay, let me work on my languages. Let me work on my musicality. Of course, let me make sure that my voice from top to bottom is lined up and it is, that homogeneous instrument that when you get out on the stage, it just sounds like you were born to sing. Don't have a voice that's
Mhm.
manufactured. I mean,
Mhm.
all of these things were things that I took in because I felt like if I had any shot of doing anything successfully, I had to be that good. And so I'm thankful that I had those people around me who pushed me and encouraged me. And yes, even with all of
Yes.
that and the favor is a big word that I always say. There were detractors and people who still
Mhm.
blocked my path. I had an agent tell me to my face that early on in my career, he actively and deliberately tried to block me. But he
Oh my
said,
good.
I he told me this to my face. And then he said, I have to apologize for you because obviously it didn't work. And I'm so happy that it didn't work because you are a singer that the world needs to hear. So I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart because that was energy, you know, that wasn't spent very well. But so
Exactly.
again, with all of those people who've tried to block me and try to do things that would be a detriment to my career, some of those things really inspired me to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
Cuba Gooding Jr. There was a movie. Many of the listeners today, I'm sure, are too young to know this, but there was a movie called A Few Good Men where
Oh, yes.
Cuba Gooding Jr. He said a line in the movie. Someone asked him. They said he went on to be a Navy SEALs diver. I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
you call it.
Mm-hmm.
But they asked him why did he want it so much, and he said it's because they told me I couldn't have it. And
That's
for
right.
all those people who said I couldn't have it or said I couldn't do it or said I wouldn't be successful, those people were the fuel that drove me to say, okay, I can spend another 30 minutes working on this. I can spend another hour instead of going to the video arcade or something else. I will work on these things because I know what I
Mm-hmm.
have to be in order to have a sniff of success. And so I'm thankful for those people who meant me harm because they also attributed to my work ethic to make me want to pursue it even more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And success is the best revenge in the world. When you are standing on that stage singing those glorious notes, bless those people that tried to make it hard for you because we are all the beneficiaries of your brilliant, brilliant artistry. Larry, we are in the midst of two pandemics,
Mhm.
COVID-19 coronavirus and the racial injustices and upheavals that have plagued this country for far too long. Can you share the impact of these two pandemics on your life, your activism, and your artistic career?
Sure. Let me talk about COVID first. COVID has been, oh my gosh, in every industry in the world, it has really brought everything to a screeching halt.
It sure has.
I've been fortunate to do some things virtually and a couple things actually in person with protocols and mitigation to try to keep us safe. But for a person myself who travels 9+ months a year and
Mhm.
is used to living out of a suitcase, um, it has really changed everything. And yes, I am happy to be at home and be with my wife and two kids. I'm a father. I have a son who's 10 years old and a daughter who's 9. My son's autistic. And so to be with him and my wife and my daughter, it's been really a blessing in that sense. But my identity as an artist, I love doing it. It's not only my job, but it's my passion. It's that thing that, even when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be inspired to do something, and you want the feedback of the audience. You want,
Yeah,
I'm not their bravos, but you want that synergy, that energy that really
exactly. That
inspires you.
connection, that connection. You need the connection.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Absolutely.
indeed.
And so you don't have that. And so many of my colleagues have said that they've been depressed because they haven't had the outlet to do what they want to do. And so what I've taken it upon myself as an opportunity to stay engaged is to be active virtually, doing things and actually producing some of the other things, as you mentioned before, the sit down with LB and some of the other things with
Yeah.
colleagues, to just operate in a different way than I had before during my normal life. So the COVID thing has affected me. I've always tried to stay positive and try to have um, you know a sunny outlook on the fact that we will get through things. But it's been
Mhm.
hard. But I've tried to channel my energy towards positive things. So that's been tough. The
Mhm.
racial uh, the racial pandemic. Obviously, everyone in our country and around the world, it was the egregious and just unthinkable thing that moved the world forward in this hopefully in something that will be a change towards the idea of racism and just the treatment, excessive force with police brutality and all those other things. I've strongly condemned it. I've long been outspoken about things like that. Cycles of My Being, which you mentioned earlier, came out of this desire to want to have a voice in this, to use my voice, my
Mhm.
art as a platform to talk about these things that really sit heavily on my heart. And so I
Mhm.
think it's important to try to find the the positivity out of a situation. And so many people have written to me around the world, expressing their disgust. So many of my friends and colleagues who would never consider themselves racist, they said,
Mhm.
I want to apologize to you for sitting on the sidelines. I didn't even realize I was, but now I can no longer do that. This
No.
summer, it really inspired me to moderate a book club discussion. So we ended up reading 3 books on racism, and we talked to people very openly, very candidly, unfiltered, no holds barred about racism. We read 3 books and we discussed it, and we got some
Mhm.
good work done. Some people who
Great.
told me they were so uncomfortable. They were
Mhm.
never the odd person out, but hearing all these things and just getting the needing to listen to these
Yes.
discussions, I think
Yes.
was
Yes.
so meaningful. So that pandemic is ongoing, but I am positive. Well, I'm hopeful, rather, is a better word to say, that this won't just be a flash in the pan, and people will want to see uh, the change in this country
Yes.
that that needs to happen. So, my artistry and my activism, being active and talking about these things are very important to me. As you mentioned before, I'm a member of a fraternity that's very, very important to me. I went to Indiana University, which is the Alpha chapter
Yes.
of Kappa Alpha Psi
Yes.
Fraternity Incorporated, and that's where I became a member of it. And so it's something that's close to my heart. But my 3 best friends, we talk all the time, and we talk about giving back, and we talk about being a role model or an example. And so, we have me and my fraternity brothers, we started a foundation, we started a scholarship. We wanted to be active and
That's
put our
wonderful.
money and our thoughts and our energy, in places, so it would just not be, we need to make sure that people look at us and see us doing things for positivity. So speaking out on the things that are close to my heart and things that I want to see change are very, very important to me. And so that's what I've been doing during this time of COVID, and with my work and my artistry and activism. And hopefully it's been something that has been good.
It's so meaningful, and to hear you explain all the aspects that you're involved in, it's just wonderful and inspiring. What would you want people to know about you as the artist and the activist? What would you want your fans and the world to know about you in that regard?
As an artist, someone told me a long time ago to sing with my heart.
Hmm.
Anything I always try to do, I try to make it my own. I don't try to decompose or recompose, but I try to deliver something with the intention that I hope, if the composer was living and sitting there next to me, that they would say, yes, that's exactly what I imagined, or that's better than what I thought, or you took it into your own hands and made it your own, in a positive way. And so I want to make sure that, as my good friend Joyce DiDonato says, she was talking to Dame Janet Baker, and she said, Janet Baker said, I always made sure that I got out of the way so that the music could speak. And so that's the
Yes.
same thing I want to do, is to make sure that people aren't saying, it's more about the music. And if you acquit yourself well and you do the best job you can, someone may appreciate your offerings or what you bring to the table. But I want to make sure I am not a hindrance to the music, but just really am a vessel that the composer's intentions can really be realized. So that's as an artist. As an activist, you I think it's important to, the first thing I've always thought about doing is to make sure that the platform that I have to stand on is one that's firm. And so the thing I've always tried to do is be the best artist first that I can be. And one of the things I always say is, let the product be better than the marketing. So I want to make sure that me, the person that's working, is something that is valuable, that is something that is respected, something that people can say, that's why I want to listen to him, because he's not just blowing smoke, but what he's always doing as an artist and as a person is top level. And then I'm going to listen to him because the passion that he has as an activist is built on what he's done and the cachet he's built up. And so that's what my activism all is rooted from. It really comes from making sure first that I'm taking care of the things that gave me the platform to be seen, and then
Hmm.
definitely go from that. After that, really go from that standpoint to make sure that people know what's on my heart and that it rings even truer.
Larry, you are such an inspiration to singers from all over the world, especially student singers. And we actually have questions from our own students here at George Mason University. But first, I'd like to show this additional video of you from La Donna del Largo. Would you care to speak about this video performance and talk a little bit about the opera itself? It's not a very well known opera, but I would love for you to lead us into this wonderful video and to
Sure.
mention your project, Amici e Rivali.
Yes, thank you so much. This next piece is from the project that you mentioned, Patty, Amici e Rivali, and it is featuring all the duets and trios of Rossini tenors. And so a lot of people know that I sing quite a bit of Rossini. And so myself, along with my good friend Michael Spires and another American singer who sings
Yes.
Rossini, we decided after we had a very successful concert in Amsterdam that we would do a CD of all the duets and trios of Rossini because it had never been done before. And
That's
so
right.
that's where the idea came up. And the title Amici e Rivali is because some of the roles are rivals and some of them are friends. And so
Yes.
that's how we came up with the title. But this particular trio, it's the character I play is Uberto, who's the king, and he often goes amongst his people disguised because everybody, back in the day, they didn't have social media. And sometimes you had renderings of what a person, a king or queen looked like, but some people will
Hmm.
go their whole lives without really knowing who the queen and king were because they didn't see them in person. But anyway, the king would go disguised, and he came upon this woman, Elena, and immediately he saw her and fell in love with her. But she told him, she said, "You know what? I'm actually betrothed to one person, but in love with someone else." So it was kind of a love triangle because the king thought he should be able to have her. And so as he's there, there was a warring faction from his group, Rodrigo, who hated the king, and he actually approached the king. And this is the beginning, this trio of a battle of high seas, actually. And so this is one of the great moments from the opera La Donna del Lago. And I had a great time recording it on our album, Amici and Rivali, with my good friends.
Thank you so much for that, Larry. Thank you. That is just spectacular. It's so wonderful, so musical, so artistic. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. We have several questions, starting with Megan Slay from our students here at George Mason. They're so excited to have you visit. So we'll start with Megan Slay.
Hi, my name is Megan Slay. I'm a piano performance major studying for my master's in music at George Mason. I was wondering what attracted you to opera originally, and when did you know it was the path for you?
You know, the first time I ever saw an opera is when I was cast in one, actually. That was the first time. And someone told me that I had a voice to sing opera. But what attracted me to opera, I saw The Ballad of Baby Doe was my first opera at Indianapolis Opera that I saw, and that I wasn't in. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, they sing the whole time. And isn't that great that every moment is spoken, which is different than musical theater? And I had some background in that. And I just thought, wow, these people have to be so technically sound and so set up to be able to sustain an opera for the whole night. And how do they do that? And so I just thought, let me try. Since people had told me, you have a voice to sing opera, I said, let me try. And when did I know it was the path for me? There was a time I think it was my junior year in high school, and I loved music, and I had been involved in it since high school, and as I said before, as a kid. But I remember going to a competition and losing a competition of Nats, and I remember going home that week, that next Monday at school, and I said to my teacher, I'm going to go back next year and I'm going to win that competition. I said that. I wasn't
That's it.
arrogant, but I just was like, I wasn't arrogant at all, but I was like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to win next year. And so I remember working that whole year and going back to that competition. And I remember the guy who won first place because we were in the same region. And so every year it would be the same people competing. And I remember pulling up to the University of Michigan, and on the bus I was sitting there after I had pumped myself up the whole year. I said to myself, I said, I hope that guy who won last year doesn't show up. Well, we go inside the building, and the first person I see
Person
is
you
that
see is
guy.
him.
And I was like, oh gosh. But I felt like I was ready. And so I remember doing the competition, and the same three guys made it to the finals. And last year, the first year, I got third place. But I remember this year, I went in there and I sang. And so as they read the names, the guy who won first place last year, he got second place, and then they called my name as first place. And so
Hallelujah.
I won my category. And then after that, this is the first time they had done it, but they had this overall award for all the singers. And I remember
Yeah.
sitting in my seat, and they said, we have one overall singer for the whole competition. And I was chatting with one of my friends, and then I looked up at the stage at that moment, and they called my name, and I was like, wow, okay. So
Hmm.
I was like, you know what? I think I have my sign. I think this is something that I absolutely need to pursue. And I had a passion for it. And I said, I'm really going to follow my heart and go after this thing wholeheartedly. So that was what made me make the decision, winning that competition after having losing it, coming back, working hard, and being successful.
I love your tenacity. I love your determination and your tenacity. That's so wonderful. And I'm also interested to know that you took part in the Nats competition because here at George Mason we have students every year that take part. I think it's a very valuable experience for singers. What do you think about that?
I agree wholeheartedly because the people in your school, and you can be inspired by them, but it's nice to look outside that pool. It's nice to look in a different ecosystem and see how you fare. Some people can inspire you. Some people may make you think, okay, I know I can do that, and so I need to work harder. Look how polished that person is. Look how prepared they are. Look how it just opens your mind up to a lot more possibilities and just different exposure. And so it can be the thing that really propels you forward. And so if you win that, you may feel like, okay, I have a better shot to be successful. So I definitely am a big fan of Nats and vocal competitions because I think you need to see how you fare amongst your peers. And so I
So
think that's a good way to do it.
absolutely. We have another question
Hello,
from one
Mr.
of our
Brownlee.
students.
My name is Case Hope. I am a vocal performance and music education major here at Mason. I am also the secretary of the Mason Musicians of Color. My question for you is, what would you say or what advice would you give to a young African American tenor trying to make it in the operatic world?
You know, as I said before, one of the things I think that's really important is to work on yourself, work on your craft. Let your, you know, not to get too biblical, but in the Bible it says, let your gift make a room for you rather than you
Hmm.
making room for your gift. And oftentimes some people who make let their mouth do the talking, their gift isn't where it should be. And so I always tell people to focus on that thing first. Believe in yourself. Find out the thing that you do better than others. A way to zero in on, what your strengths are, where they lie, and so be diligent, hardworking, and feel like you have to do everything to be successful. Because my father used to say, if you shoot for the sun and you hit the moon, you're still in a pretty good place. And so
Still in a
it
good
all
place.
starts at you. It starts with you working hard to perfect who you are. And then just have that belief and, that tenacity, that but the faith that you are doing what you should be doing, and then just let the rest of it fall into place. Don't worry about the things you can't control. I was told many times that I was too short, I was too black, I was too heavy. I have lost weight since then, but many people told me that I wouldn't be successful. And so uh, again, thankfully there were a lot of people around me who did give me encouragement and made me believe that I was doing what I should be doing. So let those people be your, the wind behind your sails to propel you forward. And just those are all the things I think you can do. And just, I think you will be successful if you really focus on those things and let the other things you can't change, don't worry about them, and really believe in your talent and yourself.
Such wise, such wisdom, such wisdom. Thank you for that. And I think we have yet another question coming through.
Hi, Mr. Brownlee. My name is Nairobi King. I am a junior vocal performance major, and I am president of two organizations on campus. I am president of our group Mason Musicians of Color, a BIPOC organization within the School of Music, and I'm also president of Sigma Alpha Iota, a music fraternity on campus as well. And my question to you is, how do you deal with microaggressions in the workforce? I feel that as musicians of color, we deal with small little comments that come here and there, and sometimes from the same person. And how do you professionally kind of deal with those comments and either address them as they happen, or have them in like a private sort of conversation or scenario? So yeah.
My
Great
advice to
question.
you is this. Yes, it is. My advice to you is this: if someone does it in a public setting, I think it's okay to address it in the public setting as well. If they don't have any problems with trying to embarrass you or humiliate you in front of others, I think it's okay for you to call it out in front of others. If they're going to be humiliated or embarrassed, it's not an eye for an eye, but I think you need to definitely speak up for yourself. Now, if it's done where it is not so obvious and it is something that makes you uncomfortable, I think you should also potentially pull them and an authoritative figure to the side and then have the discussion. I think it is always nice to talk. If you have the same voice studio teacher, address it with them. Perhaps if you say to them, I need to speak to you, Dr. Miller, about this issue, and I think we should handle this, in front of one another. There is a way to handle it. I think you have to be wise in doing that, but I think you definitely need to stand up for yourself. So now, for me, microaggressions, if it happens to me, I am one that won't let it pass, and I don't think I have to just fly off the handle. But I think keeping your composure and addressing something for straight on is the best way to handle it. You can't show people that you're rattled or affected by it, but you want to make sure that you won't stand for it. As long as you are a person that respects others, and you respect others, you deserve to be respected the same way. And so you shouldn't let anyone take that away from you. We don't have to stand for that and be slapped around. And sometimes, you talk about being the only black person in the room. That's okay. You may think it may be me against the world, but that's okay, because now I think and I hope we're at a time that there are other people who will not let it pass, that will stand up and say, well, you know what, she's right, and you absolutely were out of place for saying this or treating her this way or trying to make her feel inferior or whatever reason it is. So speak up to that. Don't let it happen, but just make sure you use wisdom in how you do it, because people are always going to want to pin a certain, character or type of response or an attribute to you because you are a person of color. But let them see your intelligence. Let them see the fact that you won't be bossed around or bullied, and that you will stand up for yourself all the time.
I just love that answer. That's so powerful. We have one more student question, Larry.
Okay,
Hello,
sure.
Mr. Brownlee. My name is Elizabeth Borzic. I'm a grad student at George Mason University. My question is, what are your future plans for building and continuing to develop diversity in the world of performance and beyond? Thank you.
Well, I've been actively involved in this, and it's something that's close to my heart. I was fortunate to be involved in a show choir when I was in high school, and it combined all the 5 area high schools together in one group. So it brought the kids from the all white side of town together with the kids from the all black side of town, together with the kids that were more, of a mixed community. We all came together, and my teacher, who for me is like a second mother, uh, her whole thing was that we are equal. This is about loving one another. This is about brotherhood. This is about just us coexisting because it's the way it should be. And so I was taught that at an early age. And so that is my identity. That is my reality. And I want my world to be diverse. I want to have friends that come from different places and have different experiences. I want to know, I want to feel that that's what heaven's going to be like. And it should be like that on earth, if you want to put it in that framework. But
I love it.
that's the way I look at it. And so what I've been doing in my work is trying to do with some of the companies, excuse me, that I've been involved with, is doing community concerts where I reach out to various portions of the community to expose them to classical music, to make them feel welcome to come into the opera house. A lot of them don't know, and you'll probably hear them say, oh, I didn't know that black people sang opera. Oh, I didn't know Asian people sing opera. Oh, I didn't know these people sing opera. But just to do that, invite the community in to expand and enrich the audience, because I think that is the way that this art form is going to survive for many years to come. I hope that's what it is. So I want to continue to have these concerts. I want to continue to be engaged in the community. I want to make sure that whichever artistic institution I'm involved with is representative of the people in that city, that you reach out to them to make sure that everyone feels welcome there, and just to expose people to this art form in a way that is not off-putting. A lot of people think that it's snooty and highfalutin and for the highbrow people, but I don't believe so. I think we don't have to dumb down what we do. We just have to present it in its best way, and I think people will come to it. So I want to continue to work it. I want to be an approachable figure, and I don't want people to feel like I'm some old school Devo that doesn't talk to people and sets myself apart. I think that day is gone, and so be myself, being comfortable, trying to present this thing in a way that is attractive to other people, and hopefully they'll come. So that's what I want to continue to do, and that is for when I think of diversity, a lot of people think immediately black and white, but that I don't believe that. I think it's black and white, young, old, Asian, Latino, Indian, all of these stuff coming together, people presenting the highest level of art, because I think opera really is that, the highest level of art for everyone. And so that's what I want to continue to do in my work as an advocate for expansion, enriching the audience, and growing it. So that's what I hope my diversity work will be about.
Larry, you are indeed such an inspiration. You're an extraordinary artist and such a passionate activist and humanitarian. This has been an amazing evening, so inspiring, and you're so candid about everything, and we appreciate that so very much. Do you have any parting words for our students here at George Mason? You've lifted us all with your words of inspiration, but do you have any parting ideas or things that you'd like for us to just hold on to?
Sure. What I always tell students, I'm not that much younger, excuse me, that much older than you are. I feel young still. But I want you to know that I'm not that far removed from where you are today. One of the things that really, I think, helped me in some of the successes I've had is this idea that I have to do a lot of the work myself. A lot of people are waiting for everything to be handed to them, and you can't do that. You have to really want this thing. And I know everybody doesn't want to be an opera singer that leaves 9 months or 10 months a year. Other people want to do different things in music at different levels, and that's okay. But I feel like if you do the work and make sure that you worry about, again, as I said before, the things that you can control, working on your craft, let it be that thing that is unlike anyone else's. Don't compete against others, compete against yourself.
Mhm.
I think those things will help you in your success. All of the things that you're doing, think of them as an investment in yourself, an investment in your future. You're enriching your portfolio. You're making yourself more marketable because you're doing more things for yourself. But to really think of yourself as a project, be a sponge, be a filter, in the sense that don't be so easy to reject things always. Let your mind be like a filter. Let it go in one ear, and if you don't need it, filter it out on the other side rather than blocking it. Because even sometimes when people give you things that you think are not necessarily good for you, there is good in it, especially if these people come from a place of authority. And so, even if someone challenges you, try to rise to the occasion. I always say that anything that challenges you is an opportunity to tap untapped potential. And there are things in yourself that you may discover about yourself because someone challenges you. So feel like there is something for you to learn and ways for you to grow. And until your phone is ringing off the hook from La Scala and the Met and all these other places, feel like you have something to learn. And so that is my parting advice for all of you.
We are so deeply grateful to you for sharing so much of your brilliant career and so much of yourself with our audiences and with our students and faculty and community. This has been an amazing evening. I would like to thank our College of Visual and Performing Arts and the Artist Activist Speaker Series curatorial cohort, the Dewberry School of Music, and of course, our special guest artist and friend, Lawrence Brownlee. We
Can I
hope to
leave one more
see,
thing?
absolutely, please leave more than one.
I just had to give a shout out to Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh,
Yes,
who's on
indeed.
the faculty. Joe Walsh, my very, 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 very first professional opera. He and Peter Mark gave me an opportunity at Virginia Opera many, many years ago, and so he's someone that I remember, someone who's been supportive. And you never know then that how 20 plus years later that you can still maintain a friendship. And so I know he's doing great work there at George Mason. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Joe Walsh.
Thank you so much for that, and I'm sure he will appreciate that so much. He is doing brilliant work here at George Mason with our students. And we hope to see our audiences tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the masterclass with Lawrence Brownlee, sponsored by the Dewberry School of Music and the Diversity Vocal Artist Series. This has been an extraordinary evening. Thank you, Larry, so much, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.